My name's Caleb, I'm 34, and I've always been the dependable one in my family. Not the star, not the troublemaker, not the cherished kid, just the one who arrived on time, settled my debts, and never forgot a birthday. I work in accounting, live by myself, and keep things low-key. My family? They're boisterous, tight in a showy way, and experts at acting like everything's perfect while ignoring real issues. I've always been on the edges, present, but never truly included. The guy you invite to reunions but don't ask to stand in the group picture. Growing up, my brother Ethan was the golden boy. Charming, impulsive, and always stumbling into messes, yet somehow he always came out unscathed. He had this slick charisma that my parents devoured like it was dessert. Even when he flunked out of university, lost 2 jobs, and moved back home at 28, they still acted like he was destined for greatness. Meanwhile, I funded my own education, held a steady job for over a decade, and chipped in for their mortgage when Dad's hours were slashed. But none of that ever seemed to count, at least not enough to earn me a real place in their spotlight. I didn't let it bother me. Or so I convinced myself. I stayed focused, sent the money, answered the messages, showed up for gatherings, and grinned through the little digs disguised as humor. Caleb, you're so uptight. Relax, dude. It's just a barbecue. We assumed you'd be swamped. You're always at the office. I brushed it off. Part of me hoped that if I kept showing up one day, I'd be truly seen as part of the family, not just the guy bankrolling it from the sidelines. That hope crumbled last autumn. It started with a dinner. Ethan had just gotten engaged to a woman named Lauren, who my mom already called a blessing, and my parents decided to host a lavish engagement party at a fancy rooftop venue downtown. Not their usual budget, which should have been a red flag. A few weeks prior, Mom called me. "Caleb, honey," she said in that sweet tone she uses when she's after something. "We'd love for you to come to Ethan and Lauren's engagement dinner. It's going to be such a memorable evening." Of course, I agreed without a second thought. "Just send me the info." "And if it's not too much," she added, voice softening, "could you help with the reservation?" "Just to secure it. We'll cover you later, promise." I should have known "we'll cover you" meant I'd never see a dime. But, as usual, I said yes. I contacted the venue, reserved a private area for 20, and put down my card for the deposit. I didn't mind too much. It was Ethan's moment, and maybe, just maybe, this time, I'd feel like I belonged. On the night of the dinner, I arrived right at 7 p.m. I wore a sharp charcoal suit, crisp shirt, and new cufflinks I'd saved for a special occasion. I brought a fine bottle of wine for the couple and a personalized card with their initials. When I reached the rooftop, the hostess gave a quick nod and pointed to the private section. I took a deep breath and stepped in. The place was stunning. Twinkling lights above, elegant floral displays on the tables, a jazz quartet playing softly in the background. There they were, my parents, Ethan, Lauren, her family, and a few friends, all with drinks in hand, laughing, toasting. I smiled and approached, expecting at least a glance of acknowledgement. Instead, Ethan turned with that familiar cocky grin. "Oh, hey," he said, barely noticing the wine in my hand. "Good you made it." Then he gestured to a folding chair off to the side, right by a trash can. "Sorry, this table's for close family only," he said with fake pity. "But there's a spot for you over there." I froze, thinking it was a joke. I glanced at Mom, who gave me that tight smile she uses to avoid conflict. Dad let out an uneasy laugh and raised his glass. Lauren didn't even look my way. Then a few people chuckled. I stood there, stunned, my face burning. I wanted to speak, but my throat tightened. I felt like I was 12 again, left out of a family photo at a cousin's party because I didn't match the vibe, so I walked to the chair, placed the wine on the floor, and sat alone. I didn't even take off my jacket. A server came by and asked if I was with the group. I nodded quietly. He didn't press further, just handed me a glass of water and moved on. I sat there for nearly 2 hours as they laughed, clinked glasses, and exchanged gifts. I watched Ethan give a heartfelt speech about how blessed he was to be surrounded by his nearest and dearest. I saw Mom tear up when Lauren called her the best future mother-in-law ever. No one glanced my way for the last half hour. Then came the dessert, a towering cake with gold leaf accents. The quartet played a gentle melody. The sun sank below the city, and then the bill arrived. I saw the server approach their table with a small leather folder. He paused, glanced at the card on file, my card, and started toward me. "Excuse me, sir," he said softly. "The total for the event is $3,147. Should I charge the same card for the balance?" Everyone turned to look. Ethan raised an eyebrow. "Oh, yeah," he said nonchalantly. "Caleb's covering it." The server looked at me. I smiled, a calm, deliberate smile. My voice was even. "Not my table," I said, loud enough for all to hear. "I was told this was for family only." The silence was deafening. Ethan's mouth twitched. Mom frowned, puzzled. Dad sat up straighter. Lauren's father raised an eyebrow. The server hesitated. "Sir, you booked the event?" "I did," I nodded, "and I paid the deposit. But I'm not with them. I'm over here, by the trash can, where I was told to sit." The room went still. The server stood frozen, bill in hand, like it was a live wire. Ethan's face tightened, his smirk fading. Mom's eyes darted between me and the folder, realizing things had slipped out of her control. "Wait, Caleb," she said, her voice unsteady. "What's this about?" I shrugged. "Just following Ethan's rules, Mom. He said the main table was for family. I assumed that meant I wasn't part of it." The server cleared his throat. "Sir, I'm sorry, but I need to settle the bill to close the tab." Ethan snapped, "Don't be absurd, Caleb." It was a joke. Stop taking everything so seriously. The jazz quartet's music seemed to fade to a murmur. All eyes were on me, and for once, I didn't shrink. "A joke," I said slowly, "is only funny when everyone's laughing. Not when it's always at someone else's expense." Lauren looked confused, like she was just now piecing things together. Her father, a stern man in a tailored jacket who'd barely spoken, fixed Ethan with a hard stare. "You invited this man to your engagement party and stuck him by the garbage?" he asked, disbelief clear. Ethan scoffed, looking to Mom for support. She forced a smile. "Let's not make a big deal out of this. Caleb's just being dramatic. He's always been touchy." I almost laughed. That was her go-to excuse. Always had been. "He's just touchy. He's just stressed. He's just overreacting." Anything to avoid admitting they'd let something cruel slide. The server spoke again. "I need an alternate payment if the card on file isn't being used." Silence. I stood, grabbed my jacket, and nodded toward the trash can. "Guess that's my cue." I started for the elevator. That's when Dad finally spoke. "Caleb, come on. You already paid half. Just finish it." I stopped. That "just finish it" broke something in me. I turned back. "You're right, Dad. I paid the deposit. I called 4 venues to find one with the city view Ethan wanted. I shifted my schedule to fit his game nights. I ordered custom centerpieces because Mom said fake ones would look tacky in pictures. I dropped $600 up front without a second thought. And I showed up alone, in a suit, to support my brother." I stepped closer. "And what did I get? A folding chair by the trash and a family-only jab." I looked at Ethan. "So now you handle it. You and your real family." Ethan's face reddened, anger creeping up. He stood trying to loom larger, but it just looked pathetic. "You're making a scene." "No," I said. "I'm setting a boundary." And I walked out. I skipped the elevator, taking the stairs, each step fueled by adrenaline and disbelief that I'd actually done it. Outside, the cool night air hit me like a wake-up call. I loosened my tie and kept walking, no destination in mind, just certain I wasn't turning back. I thought that might be the end, a dramatic exit, maybe a few strained apologies later. But the fallout was bigger than I expected. That night, still in my suit, still clutching that unopened bottle of wine, my phone lit up. First, a text from Ethan. "Dude, really? You couldn't just pay and talk later? You humiliated us in front of Lauren's family. Was that your plan? Payback?" Then another. "You made Mom cry." Then a call from an unknown number. It was Lauren. Hi, she said, her voice soft. I know we don't really know each other, but can I ask you something? Sure, I said warily. Did you really cover everything? The deposit, the flowers, all of it? I paused. Yeah, she sighed. They told my dad you wanted to, that it was your idea. That hit hard. I never offered, I said. They asked. I agreed. I didn't expect repayment, but I didn't do it for clout. Lauren exhaled. My dad's livid. He thought you volunteered as a kind gesture. Now he's saying he'd never have picked that venue if he knew they'd sidelined the person paying for it. I stayed silent. He says it made him look foolish, she added. I'm not trying to stir drama. I just thought you should know. I thanked her, and we hung up. But the consequences kept rolling. The next few days, things snowballed. It started with the family group chat, usually buzzing with birthday plans and random memes. It had been silent since the dinner, but suddenly it exploded. Mom. Caleb, we need to talk. Call me. Ethan. You screwed things up with Lauren's family. Fix it. Dad. This is getting out of control. Just say sorry. And let's move on. I didn't respond. It wasn't just the chair or the bill. It was years of being the backup plan, the ATM, the fixer. Now that I'd said no, they were lost. What made it worse, or better, depending on your view, was that Lauren's dad wasn't one to let disrespect slide. Through a mutual friend, Ryan, who'd always been kinder to me than most, I heard Mr. Bennett had lost it the next day. He'd funded Lauren's private education, helped launch her PR firm, and planned a flawless engagement season. Only to learn the groom's family lied about who paid, disrespected their own kin, and left him with half the bar tab after I refused to cover it. Ryan said Mr. Bennett told Lauren at brunch, if they treat their own son like that, what happens when you're part of their family? The fallout hit Ethan hard. Wedding plans stalled. Lauren moved to her apartment for a breather, and the Pinterest boards disappeared. Mom sent me a long email, subject line, please. It was paragraphs of polished guilt, saying she never meant to hurt me, never knew I felt left out, and how much it would mean if I'd just talk to Ethan and fix things. But no, sorry. Just, we didn't know. You misread it. Let's not let one night ruin our connection. I stared at that last line. What connection? The one where I drove 4 hours on New Year's Eve to deliver gifts because Ethan was too stressed to shop? Or when I skipped my Italy trip to cover Dad's medical bills? Or when I co-signed their car loan without hesitation, the car Ethan borrowed and never returned? I left the email unanswered. Then my Aunt Linda, Mom's sister, called. That was unexpected. She's tough, runs her own event planning business, and always seems like she's silently judging everyone. We hadn't talked in ages. Caleb, she said, I heard about the dinner. Of course, I said, keeping my tone neutral. I'm not here to lecture you, she said. I'm saying well done. It's about time someone rattled their cage. That surprised me. She sighed. I know how your parents operate, always glossing over problems, acting like everything's fine. But they've relied on you too much, too long. And Ethan? He's been skating by, treating you like a prop. Thanks, I said quietly. Why now? Because the Bennetts are involved, she said dryly. Your mom's in panic mode. She called me to talk sense into you. And? I told her you don't need sense. You need room to breathe. And maybe they need to learn to stand without leaning on you. That was the first time I felt seen by family, not as a resource, not as a doormat, but as a person. Later, another text from Ethan. Bro, Lauren's dad just pulled the deposit on the wedding venue, said we don't share values, fix this. Not please help, not I'm sorry, just fix this. That's when I knew he still didn't get it. He still saw me as a tool, so I fixed something for myself. That night, I logged into the joint account I'd opened for Ethan when he was jobless, the one he never closed, still tied to his subscriptions. I transferred the remaining funds, a few thousand, into a new personal savings account, my money left untouched out of some misplaced loyalty. Then I called the bank and shut down the joint account. The next morning, Ethan called 5 times. When I finally answered, he was frantic. "What did you do? My card's not working. The account's gone." "I know," I said calmly. "I closed it." "You can't just—" I did. You said I wasn't family. You don't get to use my money if I'm not even at the table." He sputtered, then switched gears. "You're jealous. Always have been. You hate that I get the spotlight. Now you're throwing a fit because Lauren's dad took my side." I laughed. "You think he's on your side?" Silence. "You'll figure it out, Ethan. You always do. Maybe ask Mom to co-sign another loan, or see if Lauren's dad can teach you to stand on your own." I hung up. I don't know what Ethan did next. But hours later, another email arrived. From Lauren. Subject: "We should talk." I hesitated before opening it. The subject felt heavy, like it carried more weight than I was ready for. But I clicked. It was long, polite, but raw. She said she hadn't realized how I'd been treated until the night unraveled. "I was so focused on making everything perfect, I missed the bigger picture," she wrote. Her father was outraged, not just over the financial lies, but the principle. He said if they can publicly shame someone who paid for and supported the whole event, I need to rethink who I'm tying myself to. Lauren was blunt. She said Ethan initially brushed it off as a misunderstanding, claiming I'd insisted on paying, that I chose to sit alone because I'm quiet, that I left early for work. But when she called the venue and got the invoice details, his story collapsed. Then came the bombshell. "I broke off the engagement last night." I stared at the screen. It wasn't just the dinner, she said. It exposed patterns she'd overlooked. Ethan's entitlement, his dismissive attitude, how he spoke about me behind my back. "He kept saying you were overreacting," she wrote. "But you were the only one who acted with any class." She closed with, "I'm not writing to drag you into this or take sides. I just wanted you to know I see it now, and I'm sorry I didn't see it earlier." I reread it, not because I doubted it, but because I wasn't used to being believed. The next few weeks were quiet. The group chat went silent. Ethan tried calling twice more, but stopped when I didn't answer. Word got around that he'd moved back with our parents. Lauren returned the ring. Her dad sent cancellation notices to vendors. Some of Ethan's buddies who'd been leeching off Lauren's network vanished. I thought it would fade into silence. But one Sunday morning, a knock at my door. It was Mom, standing on my porch in a long sweater, holding a container of casserole like a truce flag. Her eyes were red, her makeup faint. I didn't speak, just opened the door slightly. "I brought dinner," she said. I didn't take it. "I just want to talk. No justifications." That caught me off guard. I let her in. She sat at my kitchen table, same nervous hands, same forced smile. But no deflections this time. No, "He didn't mean it." She cleared her throat. "I owe you an apology." I folded my arms. "Just one?" Her face tightened, but she nodded. "Fair, probably more." She took a breath. "I didn't see it, not because it wasn't there, but because I chose not to. Ethan's always been loud, larger than life. You never asked for anything, you just handled things. We started treating you like a backup plan. Something we could always count on." "That's the thing about backup plans," I said. "People only notice them when they're failing, not when they're holding everything up." Her eyes glistened. "Your father and I were wrong. We let Ethan get away with too much. We let him treat you like you didn't matter." I stayed silent. I know a casserole and a sorry won't fix years of unfairness. But I see it now. I'm sorry. For the first time, she wasn't dodging or excusing, she was owning it. I nodded. "Thank you." We didn't talk much after. She left the casserole. I walked her out. She didn't ask me to forgive Ethan or call him. Just said, "Take care," and left. Things didn't magically fix themselves, but they didn't worsen either. My parents started texting me directly, short, respectful messages. Mom invited me to Christmas, adding, "Only if you want to." I haven't decided. Ethan's working part-time at some startup he despises, still at home, probably avoiding his own reflection. He hasn't reached out. I'm fine with that. As for me, I've been living more. I took that delayed trip to Italy, bought myself a new camera, read books on setting boundaries, family roles, quiet resilience, started therapy, not because I'm broken, but because I learned healing isn't about waiting for apologies. It's about looking in the mirror and saying, you deserved better, and you're giving it to yourself. So no, I didn't pay that bill. But I settled a different kind of debt, one I'd carried silently for years. And for the first time, I'm not by the trash can. I'm at my own table, and it's enough.